Hello my dear friends. So friends, in the previous class we have done some great discussion about the topic called Introduction to GST, and in this brilliant topic of Introduction to GST we completed some good points already, but we still have a lot more interesting points to talk in this wonderful topic called Introduction to GST. So let's spend some good time today on discussion about the balance points what we have in this great topic called Introduction to GST, and in today's class we'll complete the story of this topic called Introduction to GST. And the whole idea is being very clear that by the end of today's session and today's class we are done with this great topic called Introduction to GST. So let's spend some good time today and close this wonderful topic called Introduction to GST. Are we ready my dear friends? Fantastic, come on. So let's proceed and start discussion about this brilliant topic called Introduction to GST. And I strongly believe that we are clear with whatever we have done so far. So let's once quickly revise what we have done so far and start discussion about new points so that we are perfect in what we have done and we'll also be perfect in what we are going to do. Are we clear? Right. Let's proceed. So tell me friends, which country is the first country to introduce GST? Nothing but France. Which year? Way back in 1954. And India introduced GST on 1st of July 2017. And in India, we did not adopt France model, but we adopted the model called Canada model of GST. And the Canada model of GST is technically called as dual GST model. Canada model of GST is technically called as dual GST model. And why it is called dual GST model is because both center and state together will levy and impose the tax. Let me tell you very clearly, prior to GST law, there were some taxes in India which were levied only by central government, and there were some taxes in India which were levied only by state government. But there was never a tax in India which was levied by center and state together. For the first time in the history of India, some tax is being brought where center and state together will levy and collect the tax. So that's very interesting. What you need to understand that there was never a tax in India prior to GST law which was levied by center and state together. For the first time in the history of India, some tax is being brought which is levied by center and state together. Of course, before we had some tax called CST, which stands for Central Sales Tax, which was levied by central government, collected by state government. But of course that was not levied by center and state together. So for the first time in the history of India, some tax is being brought which is levied by center and state together. That is nothing but GST. And friends, what is the full form for GST? We all know that it is not goods and service tax, it is goods and services tax. Clear with that? And I told you one important point that GST is a, come on, I told you one very important point that GST is a destination based consumption tax. Come on my dear friends, GST is what tax? GST is a destination based consumption tax. And when I say destination based consumption tax, the meaning of that is basically the tax will reach that state. One more time I repeat, the tax will reach that state where goods or services are consumed. I repeat one more time, destination based consumption tax means that the tax will reach that state where goods or services are consumed. Getting clarity friends? Come on. What is the meaning of destination based consumption tax? Destination based consumption tax basically means that tax will reach that state where goods or services are consumed. Getting clarity friends? That is what is the actual meaning of destination based consumption tax. Getting clarity? So GST is a destination based consumption tax, and that is the reason why I clearly told you that lot of manufacturing states in India, especially like Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Maharashtra, they all told we don't want GST. We don't encourage, we don't recommend GST. That's what they told, for a simple fact and reason that they are more of manufacturing states. They lose revenue if GST is brought into India. And in order to convince them, what government of India has done is they brought one cess called GST compensation cess. And this GST compensation cess is being charged on some products like tobacco, aerated waters, and also products like motor car. They are collecting something called GST compensation cess, and that amount is being used by the state, is being used by the government in order to compensate the states who have lost revenue on account of introduction of GST. Such a great point I clearly told you. That is what is called GST compensation cess. Clear my difference? So what is GST full form? First of all, GST stands for Goods and Services Tax, and GST is a destination based consumption tax. And in India, we did not adopt France model, instead we adopted Canada model, and technically that model is called as dual GST model, wherein center and state together will levy and collect the tax. Clear, sir? And one special point I clearly taught you was, for the purpose of bringing GST into India, there was a need to amend the constitution. So for that purpose, what they have done is, they brought Constitution 122nd, first let me write bill, Constitution 122nd Amendment Bill. I repeat one more time, for the purpose of amendment, they brought one bill called Constitution 122nd Amendment Bill. And this Constitution 122nd Amendment Bill subsequently became Constitution 101st Amendment Act. And bill year is 2014, act year is 2016. That clearly signifies that some bill which was introduced in 2014 was passed in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and then signed by President by 2016. And I clearly told you one point, that every bill may not become act, and that is the reason why 122nd bill became 101st Amendment Act. Getting clarity, friends? Everybody said? And after that I clearly told you that subsequently they brought GST bills in every state to bring the respective SGST Act. Correct my dear friends? And I clearly told you one more special point, that Telangana was the first state to pass GST bill. Obviously Telangana was way too excited for GST because Telangana is more of a consumption driven state and GST is a destination based consumption tax. Money will reach that state where goods or services are consumed. Where goods or services are consumed. That's a clear cut point which we all have. Getting clarity, friends? So GST is what tax? GST is a destination based consumption tax. I strongly believe that we are getting full clarity on this point. Everybody please reply. All of us clear with this, my dear friends? So GST bills were brought in every state and Telangana was the first state to pass their GST bill. And one thing you have to understand is that by 30th June 2017, by which date, my dear friends? By 30th June 2017, the interesting fact is that every state have brought their respective GST bills except one state called Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, on 1st of July, when GST was brought into India, on 1st of July 2017, when GST was brought into India, GST was made applicable to all the states in India except Jammu and Kashmir. It is only on 8th of July 2017 that Jammu and Kashmir has given their consent for GST. So with effect from 8th of July 2017, that statement called One Nation, One Tax, that slogan became successful. The reason being very clear that when it was 1st of July, GST was applicable to whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir, and 8th of July 2017 only Jammu and Kashmir has given their consent for GST. So 8th of July 2017, GST was made applicable to entire country including Jammu and Kashmir. Getting clarity, friends? Everybody, sir? Wonderful. I told all these points to you very clearly. And with regard to GST bills, I clearly told you that 27th March they were introduced in Lok Sabha. 29th March Lok Sabha passed the bills. 6th April Rajya Sabha passed the bills. 12th April President has signed. And only when President signed, any bill will become act. Because I am sure we all know that any bill should first be passed in Lok Sabha, then be passed in Rajya Sabha, subsequently President will sign. And the bill will become act only after President signs. As simple as it. Getting clarity, friends? Everybody clear with this point, all of us? Kindly please reply. Fantastic. Let me move forward, my dear friends. Come on. So in the previous class, my dear friends, I also taught you some interesting point about definition of GST, where I clearly told you that Article 366(12)(a). What is article number? Article 366(12)(a) defines what is GST law. I repeat one more time. Which article number, friends? Article 366(12)(a) defines what is GST law, which clearly says that GST is a tax. GST is a tax on supply of all goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Come on, my dear friends, what is the language? GST is a tax on supply of all goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Come on, my dear friends, which article number defines GST? Article 366(12)(a) defines what is GST, which clearly says that GST is a tax on supply of all goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. And there are 5 petroleum products. I repeat one more time. There are 5 petroleum products which are temporarily kept outside GST. I repeat one more time, my dear friends. There are 5 petroleum products which are temporarily kept outside GST. When I say temporarily kept outside GST, what does that mean? At any point of time in the future, these goods might come into GST law. These goods might come into the purview of GST law. And what are the 5 petroleum products, my dear friends? Petroleum crude, high-speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. These are the 5 petroleum products which have been temporarily kept outside GST. Getting clarity, friends? Everybody said? And after that, my dear friends, I taught you some very interesting concept in relation to what are the taxes which are subsumed in GST law. And I clearly told you that there are some central level taxes which are subsumed in GST law, and there are also some state level taxes which are subsumed in GST law. And what are the central level taxes subsumed in GST law? Nothing but central excise duty or excise duty on Medicine and Toilet Preparation Act, service tax, and we also have a tax called CST, Central Sales Tax, or any other surcharge and cess related to the above taxes. And state level, so many taxes like luxury tax, octroi, entry tax, entertainment tax. Correct, my dear friends? And we also have a tax called VAT. How can we forget that? Value added tax. So like this, there were majority of state level taxes, including tax on betting, gambling, lottery, advertisement tax. These all taxes have been subsumed in GST law. Getting clarity, friends? All of us, my dear friends. So there are a lot of indirect taxes which have been subsumed in GST law. And that is the reason why they started using the slogan called One Nation, One Tax. The reason they started using this slogan is only because of that. That majority of the indirect taxes have been subsumed in GST law. Getting clarity, friends? Come on, getting clear? Are we all clear with this point, everybody? Wonderful, very, very interesting point, and I really want you all to have a great clarity of thought on this wonderful point called what are the taxes which are subsumed under GST law. Clear? Come on, my dear friends, which article number defines GST? Article 366(12)(a) defines what is GST law, which clearly says that GST is a tax on supply of all goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. And there are 5 petroleum products which have been temporarily kept out of GST. And the 5 petroleum products are petroleum crude, high-speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. Getting clarity? Everybody, sir? Fantastic. Come on, next. So friends, moving forward to the next interesting discussion. Under GST law, I told you that we do not have any word called, we do not use any word called purchase, we do not use any word called sale, we do not use any word called providing, and we of course do not use any word called rendering service. We do not use the word purchase, we do not use the word sale, we do not use the word providing, we do not use the word rendering. But instead of all these words, we have only one word called supply. And this concept of supply is very wide in GST law. And the reason they gave very wide definition is because under GST law, a transaction is subject to GST only if the transaction amounts to supply. If it is not a supply, then GST will not apply. So friends, GST will apply only if the transaction amounts to supply. If it is not a supply, then GST will not apply. Simple manner. Getting clarity, friends? And this word supply is defined by one wonderful section called Section 7 of CGST Act. And I clearly told you one point that unless I tell, it is whatever section number I tell is always of CGST Act. If it is IGST Act, I will specially tell you that this is IGST Act. If I am not telling anything to you, that means it is always CGST Act only. Sir, if I am not telling which act section number I am talking, it always means CGST Act only. If it is IGST Act, I will specially tell IGST Act. And one more word I told you very clearly that in supply, there are two types of supply called intrastate supply and interstate supply. Come on, my dear friends. Intrastate supply, what do we charge? CGST and SGST. Or we charge something called CGST and UTGST. So friends, intrastate supply we charge something called CGST and SGST, or we charge something called CGST and UTGST. Interstate supply we charge something called IGST. So friends, for intrastate supply we charge something called CGST and SGST, or CGST and UTGST. And for interstate supply we charge something called IGST. I strongly believe that we are getting full clarity on this, on what are the two types of supply. For intrastate supply, what do we charge, sir? CGST and SGST. For interstate supply, what do we charge, my dear friends? We charge something called IGST. Clear? Now in this context, my dear friends, some very interesting point I have to teach you. Let's concentrate and focus and listen and become perfect in that. Are we ready, sir? Let's start discussion about this wonderful concept of these two types of supply, intrastate supply, interstate supply, and how do we use this supply, and how do we use this input tax credits. And I very clearly told you that the beauty of GST law is all about input tax credits. Clear? Now listen. Sir, under GST law, they developed, come on, central government has developed, from here onwards, new concept will start, which I want you to start writing. Central government has developed one common portal for the purpose of activities related to, central government has developed one common portal for the purpose of activities related to GST law. Come on, my dear friends, what is the language we are using, sir? Central government has developed one common portal for the purpose of activities relating to GST law. Central government has developed one what portal, my dear friends? Common portal for the purpose of activities related to GST law. And why do we call this portal as common portal? The reason we call it as common portal is because for any purpose, for the purpose of any activity related to GST law, maybe for the purpose of registration, or for the purpose of filing of returns, or for the purpose of claiming of refunds, or for any other purpose, they developed one common portal, one-stop solution. And it's actually www.gst.gov.in. And let me show you that portal to give you a clarity of thought on this. This is a common portal, gst.gov.in. And in fact, you can see here what are the various things we have. Under services, we have an option called registration, payments, user services, refunds. All these points we'll talk in detail. Once time comes, we'll talk about what is registration, what is payment, what is refund. For every topic, we have got one separate chapter to discuss. And here, you have a column called e-way bill system. Let me click that, my dear friends. If I click that e-way bill system, and you have an option called click here to go to e-way bill portal. If I click that, it will proceed and take you to one website called ewaybillgst.gov.in. Now what is this e-way bill? Let me tell you the basic summary of that. Friends, What law told is that in general, whenever there is a movement of goods of value exceeding, whenever there is a movement of goods of value exceeding 50,000. I repeat one more time. In general, whenever there is a movement of goods of value exceeding what, my dear friends? 50,000. Then the person causing movement of goods, must generate a document called e-waybill. In other words, my dear friends, e-waybill is a mandatory document which needs to be generated in case where there is movement of goods of value exceeding 50,000, and this is not optional, it is mandatory and it's very practical. They brought this concept of e-waybill under GST law, which has got some great concept, and practically government is tracking every person whenever there is an e-waybill or not. At a lot of checkposts and a lot of different places, GST officers are standing and stopping the vehicles wherever there is a movement of goods, and they are stopping the vehicle and checking whether e-waybill is there or not. And e-waybill is one document requirement which has been mandated whenever there is a movement of goods of value exceeding 50,000. And the fundamental purpose of e-waybill is very clear that they want to track movement of goods. Quite obvious. The fundamental purpose of e-waybill is basically to track movement of goods. And for this particular purpose, they developed one website called www.ewaybillgst.gov.in. You can see here, I just opened that ewaybillgst.gov.in. Here we use our login and we generate e-waybill. In fact, we have got one separate chapter called e-waybill. When I go there, I'll explain you very clearly, practically, what is e-waybill, how does that e-waybill look, and what are the columns we need to fill in e-waybill. Everything I'll explain to you in detail when I go to that particular chapter called e-waybill. But are we clear so far? Very good. Come on, my dear friends. Please take these 2 points. Please write the first point that central government has developed one common portal for the purpose of activities related to GST law. And what is that common portal, my dear friends? What is that common portal? www.gst.gov.in. And for the purpose of generating e-waybill, they developed one more portal called ewaybillgst.gov.in. I strongly believe that we are getting full clarity on these points. Small points, but very important. Clear, my dear friends? Next. Government has given license to certain IT companies, has given what, my dear friends? Given license to certain IT companies, information technology companies, to develop software related to GST. Next, such IT companies are known as GSP. Now, what is GSP? That is technically called as GST Suvidha Provider. Come on, what provider we call it, my dear friends? GST Suvidha Provider. Very, very interesting language, my dear friends. Come on, look at that line, read out once again what I wrote there. Government has given license to certain IT companies to develop software related to GST. And such IT companies are known as GSPs, and GSP stands for GST Suvidha Provider. GST what provider? GST Suvidha Providers. I strongly believe that we are getting full clarity on this point. Come on, please take down all these 3 points. What the first point you wrote? Central government has developed one common portal for the purpose of activities related to GST law. And what is that common portal? www.gst.gov.in. And in general, whenever there is a movement of goods of value exceeding 50,000, then the person causing movement of goods must generate one document called e-label. And for that purpose, there is a website called www.elabelgst.gov.in. Next, government has given license to certain IT companies to develop software related to GST. And such IT companies are known as GSP, and GSP technically stands for GST Suvidha Providers. GST Suvidha Providers. I strongly believe that we have got great clarity of thought on this particular concept, my dear friends. Are we clear? Everybody, sir? I'll just wait for 1 minute for you. Please complete writing all these 3 points so that I can move forward and proceed to next discussion. Come on, my dear friends. So can I proceed? Sure. Let me move forward. So friends, in this context, as I told you already that in supply, there are 2 types of supply called intrastate supply and interstate supply. In intrastate supply, what do we charge, my dear friends? CGST and SGST. Interstate supply, what do we charge? IGST. And what does IGST stands for? Integrated GST. Now, one point I want to tell you is that CGST component is taken by central government, SGST component is taken by state government. Now, question is all about who will take this IGST component, which stands for integrated GST. Let me tell you that Article 269A specifies that IGST shall be collected by central government. IGST shall be collected by central government, and certain amount shall be shared with the states. Come on, my dear friends. I repeat one more time. Article 269A specifies that IGST shall be collected by whom, my dear friends? IGST component will be collected by central government, and certain amount shall be shared with what, my dear friends? State. So this point clearly says that whatever IGST part is there, that part is collected by central government only. But out of that amount, certain amount they will share with the state government. Are we getting clarity on this point? Everybody, sir? Come on, please write down. Please write this point. So friends, in case of intrastate supply, what do we charge, my dear friends? CGST and SGST. And CGST part will take central government. SGST part will take state government. And for intrastate supply, what do we charge? We charge something called IGST. And what is clear important point you should know is that whenever we talk about IGST, Article 269A, what is the article number? 269A. Article 269A clearly specifies that IGST shall be collected by central government. IGST shall be collected by whom? Central government. And out of that, certain amount shall be shared with the state government. And which state they will share? Obviously, they will share with consumption state, because GST is a destination-based consumption tax. Sir, if you observe, you need to get clarity of thought that I already taught you Article 366(12)A, definition for GST. And I taught you Article 366(12), definition for goods. Goods includes all materials, commodities and articles. And I already taught you Article 366(26)A, definition for services, which clearly says services means anything other than goods. And I just taught you about Article 269A, which defines what is GST, which specifies that IGST shall be collected by central government and certain amount shall be shared with the state government. And which state they will share is quite obvious that they will share with Which state, my dear friends? They'll share with which state? Destination state, obviously, because GST is a destination based consumption tax. Getting clarity, friends? Everybody, I strongly believe that we are clear with whatever points we have done. Chalo. Please put a star mark for this article 269A and write down, my dear friends. Please write down once. Come on. Whenever I'm asking you to write, kindly please write. Do not say no. Because whatever notes we are writing down will actually make a lot of sense and make you guys perfect in the concepts what we are doing. Clear? So please make sure that whenever any point is given that you write down for sure. Are we done, sir? Can I proceed? So friends, in case of intra-state supply, what do we charge? For intra-state supply, we charge something called CGST and SGST. And CGST part we will take central government. SGST part we will take state government. And in case of intra-state supply, we charge something called IGST. And Article 269A clearly specifies that IGST shall be collected by central government and certain amount will be shared with the state government. I strongly believe that we are clear with all these points, my dear friends. Please do reply, come on. Fantastic. Can I proceed? Very good. Let me proceed. So friends, one very important point I'll tell you now. So a lot of times you would have seen in TV, newspaper, many places that 18% rate has become 5%, 5% rate has become 12%, 12% has become 28%. Like this, you would have seen in TV so many times. TV or newspaper or any other social media platform, be it Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, you would have seen this kind of discussion where rate of GST has been changed or limits of GST have been changed, registration limits are changed, turnover limits are changed, or whatever it is, some change related to GST law. Correct or not? You would have definitely observed this, that there are a lot of times changes happen to GST law, especially with related to rates of GST, based on the impact in the society, based on the impact what it is creating on real-time basis. Lot of times government alters the rate of GST. Correct, my dear friends? Now, whenever I say some change related to GST law, listen, my dear friends. Any change in GST law, example, rates, limits, etc., is undertaken by, come on, my dear friends, any change in GST law, I repeat one more time, any change in what law, my dear friends? GST law, that is rates or limits, etc., is undertaken by central government. Who will undertake that? Central government. On the recommendations of, is undertaken by central government on the recommendations of somebody called GST Council. Chalo. Come on, my dear friends, please concentrate. Something very important. Any change in GST law, any change in GST law, example, the rates or limits is undertaken by central government on the recommendations of who, my dear friends? GST Council. That is done on the recommendations of GST Council. Now it is very, very, very important to know who is this GST Council and who will be there as a part of this GST Council. Getting clarity, friends? Now listen. Let me tell you that Article 279A. So whenever I say article, that means article of the Constitution. I clearly told you that in Act you will find section number, but in Constitution you will find article numbers. Article 279A talks about the concept of GST Council, which clearly says who will be there in GST Council and what do they do in GST Council. What do they do in GST Council? They make recommendation for change in limits or change in rates, or they make recommendation for new registration limits or any change in law based on the market scenarios. They make all the recommendations related to GST law. Getting clarity, everybody? Now, in this context, some interesting point what I want to tell you is that who will be there as a part of this GST Council? Come on, which article number defines GST Council? Article 279A defines what is GST Council. Now, let me tell you, in GST Council, there are various members from central side and there are also members from state side. I repeat one more time, there are members from central side also, there are members from state side also. And the reason they have put members from both sides is very logical reason. Now what is that logical reason? The logical reason being very clear that in India we follow a model called dual GST model, wherein centre and state together will levy and collect the tax. When together they are levying and collecting the tax, obviously decision related to GST also should be taken collectively. That is where they told very clearly that GST Council consists of members from central side also, state side also. Getting clarity, friends? Come on. Who are there from the side of central? From central side, my dear friends, there are two members. Number one, Union Finance Minister. Nothing but our Madam Ji. Who is that Madam Ji? Nirmala Sitharaman Ji. Union Finance Minister, and let me tell you, I think most of you know this, but still it's my duty to tell. Union Finance Minister will act as Chairman of GST Council. Union Finance Minister will act as what, my dear friends? Chairman of GST Council. Next, number two, Minister of State for Finance. Come on, my dear friends. Minister of State for what, my dear friends? Finance. So let me tell you one point very clearly that in GST Council there are members from central side also and state side also. Central side there are two members, that is number one, Union Finance Minister, number two, Minister of State for Finance. Just because the word is Minister of State for Finance doesn't mean that he is a state level person. That particular person is a central level person only. Practically we have one person called Anurag Singh Thakur who is acting as Minister of State for Finance. Clear, my dear friends? Whenever we say Minister of State for Finance, he is something like a Deputy Finance Minister. But don't be carried away by that word called Minister of State for Finance. Just because there is a word called Minister of State doesn't mean that he is a state level person. He is still a central level person only. Getting clarity, friends? I repeat one more time. In GST Council, there are members from central side as well as state side. Central side there are two members. Number one, Union Finance Minister, and Union Finance Minister will act as Chairman of GST Council. Number two, Minister of State for Finance. Are we clear? Now, state side, I know what is going in your brain. You will start telling every state finance minister. I know that, but the answer is wrong. State side, it is every state representative. In other words, in law, they never told that every state finance minister, but they only use the word every state representative. That means from Telangana state one representative will come, from Maharashtra one representative will come, from Gujarat one representative will come, from every state one representative will come. It need not be finance minister, because some state directly, who will come and sit? Who can come and sit? Directly, chief minister can come and sit. Getting clarity, friends? And one interesting point is that one of them will act as vice chairman. That means out of all the state level members, that is out of all the state level representative, one of them will act as what, my dear friends? Vice chairman of GST Council. Come on, please tell me, my dear friends, who is chairman of GST Council? Union Finance Minister. And who will be the vice chairman of GST Council? Who will be vice chairman? Out of all the state representatives, one of them will act as vice chairman of GST Council. Getting clarity, friends? Come on, my dear friends. which article number deals with GST Council? Article 279A deals with the concept of GST Council, which clearly says that from central side there are two members. Number one, Union Finance Minister, who will act as chairman of GST Council. Number two, Minister of State for Finance. And from state side there are every state representative, and one of them will act as vice chairman. Getting clarity, friends? All of us? And one special point I'll tell you now. Kindly please listen, my dear friends. Kindly please listen. Come on. Kindly please concentrate. Please focus. Listen, come on. Quorum. Friends, what is quorum first of all? I hope you all know this word called quorum. You would have heard in law so many times. What is quorum? Quorum is nothing but minimum number of members to be present to make the meeting valid. Quorum is nothing but minimum number of members to be present to make the meeting valid. And law clearly told that quorum is half of total members. That means out of total number of members, if 50% people also come, I repeat one more time, out of total number of members, even if 50% also come, then quorum is done. Quorum is done means what? The meeting is valid. Whatever proceedings are taken up in that meeting, all those are said to be valid. Getting clarity, friends? Everybody said? Come on, I repeat one more time. First listen, then you can write up. But first listen. Come on. Article 279A deals with the concept of GST Council. And let me tell you that GST Council is very important because any change related to GST law, be it rates, limits or any other change related to GST law is undertaken by central government on the recommendations of GST Council. And GST Council consists of central level members as well as state side also there are some members. And central side we have got two members, that is number one, Union Finance Minister, number two, Minister of State for Finance. And from state side we have got every state representative, and out of all that representative, one of them will act as vice chairman. And the quorum for GST Council is half of total number of members. Getting clarity, friends? Before you write down, I really want to open the website for GST Council so that you get a clarity of thought on what is GST Council all about. So friends, facility is there. You can see our Madam Ji there. We have got a facility with me where I can show you everything practically what is GST Council, and I can tell you all these things. In fact, every day in and day out, almost every 15 days once or 1 month once or weekly once, depending upon the requirement, GST Council meets quite often and they conduct their meetings and they come with an outcomes what is required to be done in relation to changes in GST law. And here you can find something called GST Council, wherein GST Council meetings you can find. Here you can find About Us. In About Us, if I just scroll it, you can find something called GST Council members. If I click this, you can find here Government of India. Government of India, you can find only two persons. Number one, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman. Number two, Shri Anurag Singh Thakur. Anurag Singh Thakur is nothing but Minister of State for Finance. Those two are basically from Government of India. That's where I clearly told you that from central side there are only two members. Number one, Union Finance Minister. Number two, Minister of State for Finance. After that, you will find all the states: Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, Gujarat, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Orissa, Puducherry, Punjab, Rajasthan, Sikkim, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Tripura, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, West Bengal. So if you observe here, in Tripura, who is there? In Tripura it is Deputy Chief Minister. And one more example also I will show you here. Puducherry, Mr. Narayan Swamy, who is that person? What is the person level? Chief Minister. That is what I was trying to emphasize with you, telling very clearly that in exam many of them are writing every state finance minister. That is absolutely wrong. It is every state representative. Getting clarity? And out of that representative, one of them will act as vice chairman. Chalo, let me go back to my sheet and I want you to write this. Come on. Article 279A talks about GST Council, in which there are central side members as well as state side members. Central side, how many are there? There are only two members. Number one, Union Finance Minister, who will act as chairman of GST Council. Number two, Minister of State for Finance. And from state side, we have got every state representative, and out of that, one of them will act as vice chairman. Are we getting clarity? And what is a quorum, guys? What is quorum, by the way? Quorum is nothing but minimum number of members to be present to make the meeting valid. Come on, yes or no? What is a quorum? Half of total number of members. I'm sure we are clear with this concept. So let's go systematically, let's go perfectly. No hurry. What is important is basically to get a complete clarity of thought and great amount of perfection. That is what is required for us. So let's focus on getting the perfection. Let's not run. If we run, we'll finish the class, but we'll not complete the class. And ultimately the whole objective is basically to complete the syllabus, and when I say complete, we get some greatest amount of perfection and greatest amount of highest level of conceptual clarity. That's what we want. Let's not run and in a hurry, let's not finish the syllabus. Let's do it systematically and very perfectly we'll do, but end of the day, we'll make sure that we are master of the concept. That is what is important. Are we clear with all this? Can I proceed? Listen. So now that you finished writing, my dear friends, some important point, let me tell you. Central side members, they have 2/3 weighted vote. Sorry. Central has a weight of 1/3 weighted vote. I repeat one more time. Central has 1/3 weighted vote. That means if two of them tell yes, that means 1/3 is done. If two of them tell yes, that means 1/3 is done. Other side, all states together, they have got 2/3 weighted vote. Friends, please understand that central side there are only two members. And two members only together have got a weight of 1/3. And from state side, all states put together, I repeat one more time, from state side, all states put together, they have got a weight of 2/3. Getting clarity, my dear friends? Come on, what is central weight? Central weight is basically 1/3. And what is state's weight? State weight is basically 2/3. Now, interesting fact which I want to tell you is that, come on, my dear friends, kindly please listen. To pass a resolution, when I say resolution, what does resolution means? Resolution basically means taking some decision. To pass a resolution, there must be 3/4 majority. So this is actually some fantastic concept actually. Come on, please listen, my dear friends, please listen. Central weight is how much, sir? Central side there are two members, and two members together they are given a weight of 1/3. And state side, all states together the weight is 2/3. But to pass a resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. When I told you very clearly that central side there are two members and two members weight is 1/3. That means what? 33.33%. And from state side, all states put together, what is the weight? 2/3. What is 2/3? 66.67%. But to pass a resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. And what is 3/4, my dear friends? 75%. If center tells yes, 33.33% is done. If states tell yes, 66.67% is done. But to pass a resolution, we want, what, my dear friends? 75% majority. So strictly speaking, center alone cannot take any decision. State alone cannot take any decision. If any resolution has to be passed or if any decision has to be taken, center and state together should join the hands. Only then resolution will be passed. I strongly believe that we are getting full clarity on this point. Friends, please speak out. Come on, my dear friends. Central weight is how much, my dear friends? Central weight is 1/3. And all state put together, the weight is 2/3. And to pass a resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. I repeat one more time. Central weight is 1/3, state's weight is 2/3. But to pass a resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. That means if central alone tells yes or state alone tells yes, resolution cannot be passed. In order to pass a resolution, center and state together should join the hands. And to give you a clarity on what is weighted vote, I'll give an example. Listen. So let's say center side, two members are present and they told yes. When I say yes, that means they agreed for some resolution. They told, what my dear friends? Yes. Now my dear friends, when they told yes, what will happen? 1/3 is done. Now what is 1/3, my dear friends? 33.33%. Yes or no, sir? Other side, my dear friends, states 24 states, I repeat one more time, 24 states were present and 18 told yes. That means 24 state representatives were present in the meeting, and out of the 24 representatives, 18 representatives have told yes for some particular decision related to GST law. So out of 24, when 18 told yes, how will you calculate our workings? My workings will be 2/3 into 18 divided by 24. 2/3 into 18 divided by 24. How much will be 2/3 into 18 divided by 24? If I calculate 2/3 into 18 by 24, 2 into 18 is 36. 3 into 24 is 72, which comes to 36 by 72, which comes to what, my dear friends? It comes to what percent? 50%. Yes or no, sir? Speak out. It comes to half. 50% is done. Now these two, if I combine together, it comes to 83.33%, and automatically resolution is passed. Ultimately resolution is passed because we want a weight of 2/3, and 2/3 is nothing but 75. We want a weight of 3/4 weighted votes. I mean, say 3/4 is nothing but 75%, and what we got is 83.33%. So automatically resolution is passed. Let me give one more example, my dear friends. Come on. Let's say for a second, center, two members present, and both of them said yes. Generally both of them together will tell yes or no, because they both are central members only. They both will generally not have difference of opinion. Both of them generally whether they will tell yes or they might tell no. But we don't find a case where one of them is telling yes, one of them is telling no. Practically we don't get to see that. Now, state side, 24 present and 12 told yes. Now what will happen, my dear friends? Come on. When I calculate, what will happen now? 1/3 is done, and 1/3 is nothing but 33.33%. And out of 24 states present, how many of them told yes? 12 told yes. So when I calculate, how will I calculate? 2/3 into 12 by 24. 2/3 into 12 by 24 comes to 24 divided by 72, which comes to 1/3, which comes to 33.33%. And if I combine these two, it comes to 66.67%. And when it is 66.67%, my straight answer will be resolution is not passed. Because ultimately, to pass resolution, what we want is 3/4 majority, and 3/4 is nothing but 75%. Getting clarity, my difference? I repeat one more time. Center has got a weight of 1/3. All states together have got a weight of 2/3. I repeat one more time. Central has got a weight of how much, sir? 1/3. And all states together have got a weight of 2/3. And to pass the resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. So ultimately, one clear-cut point, what you have to understand is that resolution cannot be passed unless there is a 3/4 majority, which is nothing but 75%. And how smartly they are put in the law. And I will tell very smart, because we are following a model called dual GST model, wherein center and state together have got dual power, and center weight is 1/3, that is 33.33%. State weight is 2/3, that is 66.67%. This clearly indicates to us that center alone or state alone cannot independently take decision. If any decision has to be taken or if any resolution has to be passed, then center and state together should join the hands. Center and state together should join the hands. Only then resolution will be passed. Very, very interesting, very, very important concept dealt by one wonderful article called Article 279A, which deals with the concept of GST Council. Getting clarity, friends? All of us clear, sir? So please do write properly and complete this concept, my dear friends. Come on. Please write. And always do remember that quorum is half of total numbers, and for central weight it is 1/3 of weighted votes. State is all states together 2/3 weighted votes. And I strongly believe that we got clarity of thought on this word called weighted votes by seeing the examples what I gave. And to pass the resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. Clear? And 3/4 is nothing but 75%. And I gave you two examples. One example is a case where resolution is passed. Another example is a case where resolution is not passed. And I really want you to get complete clarity of thought in which case resolution is passed and which case resolution is not passed. Are we clear, sir? Everybody, my dear friends, can I proceed and move forward? Everybody, sir, kindly please do reply. Fantastic. Let me scroll. And I'll wait for 2 minutes. I want you to take this example. This is example number 1. And after that, also take example 2. So that when you look at 2 examples, you are completely perfect. There should not be any second thought. So it's always important in life that number 1, we learn the concept. Number 2, we execute the concept. Number 3, we get perfection in the concept. That's all. If learning and execution is perfect, then in exam we can write beautifully and come outside. If learning goes wrong, execution will go wrong. And if learning and execution both are perfect, only then exam will be fantastic. So how much ever learning is important, execution also equally important. But of course, first step is always learning only. That's why when you listen to the class, you have to listen very clearly and concentrate very clearly. When you are listening to me and focusing, at the same time you are busy in Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, something is happening somewhere, something is going on. If you start looking at the outside world news or local news, then gone. Then gone. That's not how it works. You definitely have to concentrate, definitely have to focus. When I'm discussing the concept, you have to leave all your social media aside. You have to keep everything aside. You should forget your Facebook and you should only face the books and concentrate very properly and concentrate very perfectly. Only then you will get a great clarity of thought and perfection on the concept. Done? Finish writing example 1, my dear friends. So should I scroll for example 2? If you are done, I'll scroll. I think I should scroll then. Should I? Excellent. Let me scroll. So friends, kindly please take this example 2 also. Kindly please take example 2 also. Make sure that you get complete clarity of thought and calculations. Sir, as I already told you very clearly, out of 100 marks paper, 70 marks will come theory and problem solving, whereas 30 marks will straight away be multiple choice questions. And I've been seeing so many times where students are buying some books and studying some 1000 MCQs, 2000 MCQs, 10,000 MCQs, whatever it is. It doesn't matter how many number of MCQs you learn. It only matters how much conceptual clarity you have got. If that conceptual clarity is there, any MCQ you can answer. So please don't try to focus on number of MCQs you do. Only try to focus on the clarity of thought what you need to get on the concept. That's it. Can I proceed? Reply? Fantastic. I'll move forward. Chalo guys, come on. Which country is the first country to introduce GST? France. Come on. Which country model India adopted? Canada. On which day we brought GST into India? 1st of July 2017. And what is the significance of 8th of July, sir? 8th of July is important because Jammu and Kashmir adopted GST basically from 8th of July, because as on 1st of July, GST was applicable to whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir. Correct or not? Next, my dear friends, in the same lines, what is Article 366(12)? It defines what is GST, which clearly says that GST is a tax on supply of all goods or services or both, except alcohol and liquor for human consumption. And there are 5 petroleum products which are temporarily kept outside GST. And what are those 5? Petroleum crude, high-speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. Clear? And what is Article 366(12)? It defines what is goods, which says goods includes all materials, commodities, and articles. And what is Article 366(26)(a)? It defines what is service, which clearly says services means anything other than goods. And what is Article 269(a)? It defines what is IGST. And that basically talks about the story of IGST, which clearly says that IGST is collected by central government and certain amount will be shared with the state government. And that too, which state they will share is nothing but consumption state, because GST is a destination based consumption tax. Then what is Article 279(a)? Article 279(a) talks about GST Council, which clearly says that in GST Council there are central members as well as state members. And central members, there are 2 members. To both of them together, they have got a weight of 1/3. State side, we have got every state representative, and all state representatives together, they have got a weight of 2/3. And in order to pass a resolution, there should be 3/4 majority. That is very important. Clear, my dear friends? That is where I clearly told you that center alone or state alone cannot take any decision. If any decision has to be taken, or if any resolution has to be passed, both center and state together should join the hands. And what is a quorum? Quorum is half of total number of members. And quorum basically means minimum number of members to be present to make the meeting valid. Are we clear with this? Come on, my dear friends, under GST law, do we use a word called purchase, sale, providing, rendering? No, the only one word is supply. And there are 2 types of supply called what, my dear friends? Intrastate supply, interstate supply. Intrastate supply, what do we charge? CGST and SGST. Interstate supply, what do we charge? IGST. Getting clarity of thought, my dear friends? Fantastic. And one brilliant point what you should remember very clearly is that for every good, government has given one unique code called HSN, which stands for Harmonized System of Nomenclature. I taught this to you. This is an 8-digit code. And for every service, they have given one special code called SAC, which stands for Service Accounting Code, and this is a 6-digit code. HSN is 8-digit code, whereas SAC is 6-digit code. And what does HSN stands for? Harmonized System of Nomenclature. And SAC stands for Service Accounting Code. I'm sure we are getting full clarity, my dear friends. All of us, sir, speak out. And one special point I'll tell you now, this also I want you to write, but first listen, then write. Under GST law, registration is mandatory. Registration is mandatory if aggregate turnover, I repeat one more time, if aggregate turnover exceeds 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, as the case may be. Come on, my dear friends, please observe the language what I used. Come on, my dear friends, the language what I used is under GST law, registration is mandatory if aggregate turnover exceeds 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. That means in some cases, registration is mandatory if aggregate turnover exceeds 10 lakhs. And in some cases, registration is mandatory if aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs. And in some cases, registration is mandatory if aggregate turnover exceeds 40 lakhs. So in different cases, we have got different limits, my dear friends. And what is the different limits in different case, we will talk in detail when I go to one special chapter called registration, which is very important topic, where definitely minimum 4 marks will come in exam. Clear my difference? Now one point I'll tell you very clearly is that, so let's say there is one person called Mr. X, and he has got business in Telangana state, and he has also got business in Andhra Pradesh. Can he obtain only one registration? Can you obtain only what, my dear friends? One registration. And for this particular point, my dear friends, my answer is straight away no. And why no? Let me tell the reason for that. Registration under GST law, registration under GST law is to be obtained state-wise. Come on, my dear friends, I repeat one more time. Registration under GST law. One more time I repeat, sir. Kindly please concentrate and kindly please focus. Registration under GST law is to be obtained state-wise but not centralized. Come on, my dear friends, I repeat one more time. Registration under GST law is to be obtained state-wise but not centralized. That means we have to obtain registration state-wise but not centralized. And that is the reason why, my dear friends, every registered person is given something called GSTIN, and GSTIN stands for GST identification number. Like how every chartered accountancy student have got something called SRO, ERO, CRO, and how chartered accountants we have got something called membership number. Every person registered in GST law, he is given one number called GSTIN, which stands for GST identification number. And this GST identification number is basically a 15-digit alphanumeric code. And what is the importance of that 15-digit? I'll explain to you very much in detail when I go to the topic called registration. But one thing what I want to tell you is, first to two is always state code. Like different states have got different codes, like 31, 32, 36, 27, 28, 37. Different states have got different codes. What is first to two, next to 10, next one, what is all that? I will explain to you in detail what does each number significance is. But one point I want to tell you is, first to two is state code, and why I told that very clearly is to highlight one point, that registration under GST law is to obtain state-wise but not centralized. You can't obtain registration on centralized basis. You definitely have to obtain registration under GST law on state-wise only, but not on centralized basis. Getting clarity, friends? Come on, take this point, very important. Please write the first point. Under GST law, registration is mandatory if aggregate turnover exceeds 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, as the case may be. Why? Because in different state they kept different limits. What state, what limit, we'll talk in detail. And one more special point you need to write is that registration under GST law is to be obtained state-wise but not centralized. You can't obtain state-wise registration, you definitely have to obtain centralized registration only. Getting clarity, friends? You cannot obtain state-wise registration. You definitely have to obtain state-wise registration only. Are we clear? Exceptions are there, some special cases are there where we take centralized registration, but in general you should always take state-wise registration but not centralized. Are we clear? Come on, take these points. If you are done, I'll move forward. Come on, my dear friends, please complete this discussion. If you are done, I'll proceed. Finished writing, my dear friends? Come on, my dear friends, let's proceed and start discussion about next wonderful point what we have in this brilliant topic called Introduction to GST, which I want to teach you today only, something extremely important on which we'll spend some good time today, my dear friends. Come on, get ready. So friends, come on. We are done with various interesting points in our discussion about the chapter called Introduction to GST. So in this brilliant topic called Introduction to GST, we have discussed various interesting points what we have in our syllabus. Clear, my dear friends? Come on. So finally, one more last interesting point which I want to teach you in this particular topic only called Introduction to GST, so that you are very clear with all the points in Introduction to GST. Clear, my dear friends? Come on. So before that, tell me, my dear friends, Constitution, which is schedule they gave 3 list? Come on. In Constitution there is a schedule called, which schedule? Come on. Constitution 7th schedule, they get 3 lists called Union list, State list, Concurrent list. Union list, I matters who has got power? Central government has got exclusive power. State list, state government has got exclusive power. Concurrent list, both central government and state government. I am sure you are clear with that, my dear friends. That is the story of what are the list we have and who has got power in relation to what list. And I am pretty sure you are clear with that concept, my dear friends. Clear? Come on, let's proceed. So friends, 1-2 interesting points now. See, in relation to tobacco, friends, I'm sure you all remember the point that GST is a tax levied on supply of all goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. That is, GST is levied on all goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. That clearly means that alcoholic liquor for human consumption is permanently kept outside GST. So alcoholic liquor for human consumption is one such product on which GST will not apply, because it is permanently kept outside GST. Correct or not? I'm sure we are very clear with that story, my dear friends. Now, interesting point which I want to tell you is that Tobacco is one such product which is covered in GST law. But one point let me tell you, my dear friends, on tobacco GST will apply, and apart from GST, on manufacture of tobacco items or manufacture of tobacco products, my dear friends, central excise duty will apply. That means even though tobacco is subsumed in GST law, they have still retained the power in order to apply or charge central excise duty on manufacture of tobacco. Other words, indirectly what I am trying to tell you is that tobacco is one such product on which GST also is applicable, as well as central excise duty also is applicable. So there is one such product where both taxes are being charged. Now you might tell, sir, this is ridiculous. How can they charge double tax of old tax as well as new tax? That is what I also feel. How can they charge both the taxes? But what they replied is that we are collecting both tax only to promote social welfare. We are collecting more revenue so that people will not consume tobacco. So they are going on a different parameters. Getting clarity? In the same lines, in case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics. Come on, my dear friends. In case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics. In these products, said drugs, a lot of movies would have seen that white sugar, brown sugar, exactly. A lot of movies would have seen that. So what is this point I am trying to tell you now? In case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics, what they told very clearly is that in case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics, what they told, these products are covered in GST law, and apart from GST, state government will charge state excise duty. State what, my dear friends? Excise duty. Otherwise, my dear friends, in short, what I am trying to tell you is that very clearly 2 points I am trying to tell you here. Number 1, in case of tobacco products, GST also will apply, central excise duty also will apply. And in case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics, GST also will apply and state excise duty also will apply. So both the taxes are being charged. So these exceptional cases where both old tax as well as new tax. both the taxes are being imposed. Are we getting clarity, everybody? So for tobacco, what is being charged, my dear friends? GST also is charged. At the same time, central excise duty also is charged. And in case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics, GST also is charged, as well as state excise duty is charged. So both old tax as well as new tax, both are being imposed. Are we getting clarity, friends? So please get a tremendous clarity of thought that both old tax as well as new tax, both the taxes are being imposed. I strongly believe that we have got some great conceptual clarity on this particular concept, my dear friends. Come on, please reply. Are we clear, sir? Speak out, my dear friends. Fantastic. So without any second thought, let me proceed further, my dear friends. But before that, I'll just wait for 1 minute so that you can write down these 2 points. So tobacco is one such product on which GST also is applicable, central excise duty also is applicable. And in case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics, GST also will apply, state excise duty also will apply. And please keep in mind that alcohol liquor for human consumption is permanently kept outside GST. If it outside GST, what will be charged? State government will charge state excise duty, and of course on sale of that, VAT or CST also will apply. I know I have one of my client who is basically a hotel restaurant basically, and at the same time they also serve liquor also. And when they serve liquor, we are not charging GST on liquor, but we are charging old VAT or CST only, for a simple reason that alcohol liquor for human consumption is permanently kept outside GST. Getting clarity, friends? So come on tobacco, what will be charged? Both GST also will be charged, as well as central excise duty will be charged. And in case of opium, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs and narcotics, GST will be charged, as well as state excise duty is charged. Are we getting full clarity, my dear friends? Something super duper interesting and something extraordinary, my dear friends, on which you should definitely have some great amount of clarity of thought, without any second thought and without any compromise. And I strongly believe that we have got some great clarity on this concept. Are we clear? So can I proceed without any doubt? Let me proceed and move forward, my dear friends. Come on, next discussion. So next discussion, what we are doing now is something very interesting and very important. And this is a topic which I should teach you in input tax credit chapter. This will come back again in ITC chapter, but it is my duty to make sure I tell you this introduction chapter only, because this is one such area where a student should have definitely some great amount of clarity of thought, introduction chapter itself. And that topic what I'm going to discuss now is nothing but a beautiful topic called utilization of input tax credit. Utilization of what, my dear friends? Input tax credit. Other words, how do we utilize the input tax credit what we got? How do we use it for set off of input tax credit? Sir, common sense point, we all know that we can use input tax credit for set off of output tax, but we cannot set off in whatever way we want. There is a specific manner for the purpose of utilization of input tax credit, and that you need to understand very clearly what is the manner for utilization of credits. And let me explain that to you in detail, sir. Come on. Sir, there can be input IGST, there can be input CGST, finally there can be input SGST or UTGST. And of course, if CGST is there, SGST will obviously come, and SGST is there, obviously CGST will come. But if IGST is there, nothing else will come, because IGST is basically integrated GST, where we clearly discuss that there are two types of supply called intrastate supply and interstate supply. And intrastate supply is that supply where we charge CGST and SGST, and interstate supply is that supply where we charge IGST. And I'm pretty sure we are clear with that concept, my dear friends. Make sense, guys? Come on, let me proceed. Now when I talk about utilization of credits, what they told very clearly is that input IGST, first we should use it for output IGST. I repeat one more time, input IGST should be first utilized for output IGST. One more time I repeat, input IGST should be first utilized for output IGST. And number two, we will utilize for output CGST. I repeat one more time, what first we will use it for, my dear friends? Input IGST, input IGST, first we'll always use it for output IGST. Second, we'll use it for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. When I say any order, what does that mean? First you can use it for CGST, then for SGST, or first you can use it for SGST, then for CGST. And when I say any manner, you can use it half-half, 50-50, or 60-40, or 70-30, or 80-20, or whatever ratio you want. Getting clarity, friends? So very clearly what Law told is that input IGST, first use it for output IGST, then use it for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. Getting clarity, friends? So speak out. Come on. Input IGST, first use it for what, my dear friends? Input IGST to be first used for output IGST, then for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. I strongly believe that we are getting full clarity on this point. It's a small point, but still makes a lot of sense, my dear friends. I repeat one more time. Input IGST, first to be used for output IGST, then for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. Getting clarity, friends? Next, input CGST. This first we'll use it for output CGST. Number two, we'll use it for output IGST. I repeat one more time. Input CGST, first we'll use it for output CGST, then output IGST. But we can't use CGST for SGST. One basic fundamental point given by the law. In the same lines, my dear friends, when we talk about SGST or UTGST, number one, we'll use it for output SGST or UTGST. Number two, we'll use it for output IGST. So one special point which you can observe very clearly is that we can't use CGST for SGST and we can't use SGST for CGST. That's one first special point what you need to get a clarity of thought upon, which is something extraordinarily interesting and which actually makes a lot of sense. And I strongly hope and believe that you are getting full clarity on this point. Everybody please reply, my dear friends. Are we clear with this point, all of us? Speak out, come on my dear friends, please reply. Something extraordinary and brilliant. Come on. Now my dear friends, before I move forward, I want to write some special points. Then only we'll move forward. Special points. Number one, first listen, then you write. Special point one. CGST cannot be utilized for SGST and vice versa. When I say vice versa, what does that mean? We can't use CGST for SGST and we can't use SGST for CGST. Straight simple point. Law clearly put a restriction telling that CGST credit cannot be used for SGST and SGST credit cannot be used for CGST. Are we getting clarity, friends? So one more time I repeat, CGST credit cannot be utilized for SGST and SGST credit cannot be utilized for CGST. That's one wonderful restriction what they put in the law. Are we clear with this? Everybody, sir? Good. Second special point. Input CGST or SGST. I repeat one more time. Input what, my dear friends? CGST or SGST to be utilized. Come on, my dear friends. Kindly please listen. Input, what, sir? CGST or SGST. Input CGST or SGST to be utilized only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. I repeat one more time, my dear friends. Come on, what is the language? Input CGST. I repeat one more time. Kindly please listen. Concentrate, everybody. Input CGST or SGST to be utilized only after what, my dear friends? IGST credit is fully exhausted. Only after IGST credit is what, my dear friends? Fully exhausted. That clearly means that don't start using your CGST, SGST credit unless you fully utilize your IGST credit. That clearly means that you touch your CGST, SGST credit only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. I repeat one more time, you touch your CGST, SGST credit only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. Something very interesting and very wonderful. Come on, my dear friends. What is it we are talking about? We are talking about something called manner of utilization of input tax credit. Come on, input IGST, we'll use it for first for what? Input IGST, first we'll use it for output IGST. Then for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. Then input CGST we'll use it first for output CGST, then for output IGST. And then input SGST we'll use it for output SGST, then for output IGST. And special point to be kept in mind, number one, CGST credit cannot be utilized for SGST and vice versa. That means we can't use CGST credit for SGST or SGST credit for CGST. That's first fundamental point what you need to get. Come on. Second fundamental point, input CGST or SGST to be utilized. Input CGST or SGST to be utilized only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. That means don't touch CGST, SGST credit unless IGST credit is fully exhausted. So first completely utilize your IGST credit, only then you come and touch, only then you come and start utilizing your CGST, SGST credits. So very important points, please. Come on. We also have a third special point also, which says that credit of SGST can be utilized for output IGST. Friends, do we agree that SGST credit we can use it for output IGST? Come on, reply. Can I use SGST credit for output IGST? Come on, reply. Can I use SGST credit for output IGST? 100% answer is yes. But one point you need to keep in mind is that credit of SGST can be utilized for output IGST only after utilizing credit of CGST for output IGST. That means if you have to pay your output IGST, you can use CGST credit also, you can use SGST credit also. I repeat one more time, if you have to pay output IGST, you can use CGST credit also, SGST credit also. But law very clearly told, first use your CGST credit, only then you use your SGST credit. That is what law is trying to tell. I hope we are getting clarity. But my dear friends, whatever I told now, you will get complete clarity of thought and complete perfection only after I talk with numbers. So it is very important that you have a great clarity of thought with numbers only. So my recommendation is do one thing. I'll wait for 2 minutes. First write these points. I'll wait for 2 minutes. After that, on every point, especially special points, whatever I taught, definitely I'll discuss one question with you, so that when I talk with numbers, you guys get a complete clarity of thought and great perfection will come on what is the concept I'm trying to drive you home. That is important, because ultimately you need to get a complete clarity of thought on what is that I'm trying to tell you. It cannot be something just like that you listen and just like that you close. It cannot be like that. It definitely has to be something where you get a great clarity of thought and great perfection on what we are doing. So I really want that. Are we clear, my difference? Come on. Input IGST credit, use it for what? First for output IGST, then for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. Then input CGST, first use it for output CGST, then for output IGST. Then input SGST, first use it for output SGST, then for output IGST. And special points what we had is, number one, CGST credit cannot be used for SGST and vice versa. Number two, input CGST or SGST to be utilized only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. And third special point I told is credit of SGST can be utilized for output IGST only after utilizing credit of CGST for output IGST. Now what is the meaning of this each special point? What is the meaning of this each concept? I'll explain to you in detail with numbers. But after you finish writing. For that I'll wait for 1 more minute so that you will write. So please do write very properly and please comfortably take this, and this concept is extremely important and many a times a question has come in exam. So no games with this please. This is something which is extremely important, so where you need to have a great amount of clarity of thought. So please no games my dear friends, have an absolute clarity on what is that concept I am trying to tell you through this concept of utilization of input tax credits. Please my dear friends, something extremely important and something very important, and I strongly want you guys to have a great amount of clarity of thought on this concept of utilization of input tax credits. Please my dear friends, take this very clearly so that I can discuss with you with numbers so that you get complete perfection. I'm waiting for you. I'll just wait 1 more minute. After that I will start my numbers and make you perfect. Come on friends, please don't relax, please don't relax anytime. Please make sure that you are writing. Please don't relax at all, and I don't want anybody to relax. When you are listening to me, when you are listening to my class, you should be absolutely on your toes and you should completely concentrate. At any cost you should get complete perfection. That's the whole idea there. Are we clear? So no games at all. Please my dear friends, come on, kindly please concentrate, kindly please focus. Chalo, let me start. Are we ready sir? Can I proceed? Let me start my dear friends, kindly please concentrate and kindly please focus. Let me proceed. So friends, first let's say given below are the details of ITC and output tax pertaining to, let's say, one person called Mr. Mahesh for the month of June 2019. For the month of what my dear friends? June 2019. Month on month we'll calculate our output tax, month on month we'll calculate our input tax credit, and we'll set off. And I clearly told you one point very clearly that every month we file one return called GSTR 3B my dear friends. That is technically called as summary return, and that is a return which needs to be filed generally by normal registered person, and which that person will file by 20th of next month. In that he will disclose his details of output tax and also disclose the details of input tax credit, set off that credit, and whatever if any has to be paid, that balance also he will pay, and he will complete that. Getting clarity friends? Something very interesting and important concept my dear friends. Clear? Now listen. Now listen my dear friends, listen. Let's say input IGST 2 lakhs, and let's say input CGST 50,000, and obviously what will be input SGST my dear friends? This will also be 50,000, common sense point, because whatever will be CGST, the same thing will be SGST also. Yes or no my dear friends? Exactly. Now let's say output figures are like this. Output IGST, let's say my dear friends, 2.3 lakhs. 2.3 lakhs, or let's say for example, yeah, 2.3 lakhs, fine. Then output CGST 60,000, output SGST 60,000. Clear my dear friends? Now when we talk about manner of utilization of credit, how do we utilize the credit my dear friends? Come on, kindly please concentrate. I will take columns like this: particulars, IGST, CGST, finally last one SGST. And when I start solving the problem, particulars, what will I calculate, my dear friends? Output tax, what is the figure of my IGST? 2,30,000. CGST 60,000. SGST 60,000. Come on, my dear friends. When I reduce my input tax credit, what is the first thing I'll reduce, my dear friends? Before you start utilizing CGST, SGST credit, I clearly told you that before you start utilizing CGST, SGST credit, first completely utilize IGST credit. I repeat one more time. Before you start utilizing CGST, SGST credit, first completely utilize IGST credits. So what will be input tax credit of IGST? That is nothing but 2 lakhs. Speak out yes or no. Then what is my input tax credit of CGST? And tell me, CGST first will use it for what? CGST only. And what is the figure I have got? 50,000. Nothing else is left. So what else I'll do? Then SGST, the figure what I have is 50,000. And finally, if I have to write the figure of my dear friends, net payable. What is net payable, my dear friends? 30,000 is IGST, 10,000 is CGST, 10,000 is SGST. This is one example for manner of utilization of credits. But I'll give you more examples. Only then you will become perfect in this concept of how do we utilize this input tax credits. And I really want you guys to have a complete clarity of thought and great amount of perfection on the manner of utilization of input tax credits. Clear, my dear friends? Come on, please take this example. Please write down. Very, very interesting example. Come on, please do write. Come on, my dear friends, please. Write down, please. An interesting example which actually makes some sense. Yeah? More examples are there. Only then you will be perfect with all the concepts whatever I explained you so far. But are you clear so far? Everybody, can I proceed and move forward? Yes, please reply, sir. Wonderful. Come on, my dear friends, please carefully take all the details of input tax credit and details of output tax and also for set off. In exam, please do present properly. Friends, in exam presentation, what you do will make a big difference. When you all know very clearly that 3 hours of paper, what you are going to write will change your complete life. Why do you want to take chance? Please make sure that you present very properly so that in exam, you get some amazing scores. At any cost in exam, whatever you present should be outstanding and fantastic. Your presentation only will make all difference. The person who is correcting should feel, wow, what a brilliant paper it is. How should I give him full marks or give more marks? Like that, the person should start reacting and start feeling. Only then we say that our paper is fantastic and we wrote something super amazing. That's important. And that's all we need to present in the exam so as to make sure that you are extremely amazing. Sir, anybody will write exam. The whole point is all about how best to write and how best to present it. Please make sure that you write the best possible manner. Lot of times I feel sad whenever students are telling, sir, exams are coming, sir. We are so tense, sir, worried, sir. Why that reactions? Feel happy. Sir, exams are coming. Very soon we are going to write our exams and pass and come out as a chartered accountant. We are going to convert our SRO number or CRO number to membership number. Like that, you should feel happy and confident. And then go to the exam. Then things are going to be fantastic. With that level of confidence, if you go to the exam, then things are going to become super duper amazing. And that's very important that you go to exam in that manner. Only then, whatever you do in the exam is going to be fantastic. Clear? Make sense, everybody? Can I proceed and move forward? Brilliant, come on. Let me discuss the next example. Come on. This is example 2. Directly I'll give numbers. Kindly please concentrate. Input IGST is, let's say, 3 lakhs. Input CGST 1 lakh. Input SGST, of course, 1 lakh. Then output IGST, my dear friends. Output IGST, my dear friends, let's say 2 lakhs. Let's say output IGST is 2 lakhs. Then output CGST, this is also 2 lakhs. Then output SGST, this is also 2 lakhs. Clear, my dear friends? Now some concept will come to you through this problem. Come on. So let's take columns as particulars, IGST, CGST, SGST. How do we present the answer, my dear friends? Come on, please tell me. What is the output tax we have got? IGST figure is 2 lakhs. CGST figure also is 2 lakhs. SGST figure also is 2 lakhs. Clear, my dear friends? Now see here, when I calculate my input tax credit, kindly please tell me what is that first credit I utilize? Come on. Definitely, my dear friends, I told one principle that CGST, SGST credit to be utilized only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. So first I will definitely use IGST credit. What is the credit I have got? 3 lakhs. So first I will utilize 2 lakhs here. Now what is the balance figure I have got? 1 lakh I have got. That 1 lakh I can use it for CGST, or I can use it for SGST, or I can divide them equally also, or I can do 60-40 also, 70-30 also, 80-20 also. That's why I clearly told input IGST first to be used for output IGST, then for CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. And practically we'll set off whatever is the best for us. Otherwise we'll try to set off in the most optimum possible manner. Whichever gives us most favorable advantage, in that manner we'll set off. Getting clarity, friends? So here let's say I set off 1 lakh with CGST. Clear? Next. CGST, how much credit I have got? 1 lakh I have got. SGST, how much I have got? SGST also I have got a credit of 1 lakh. And my net payable will be IGST nil, CGST also nil, and SGST will be 1 lakh. And please understand that what is payable will also depend upon how did we utilize our input tax credits. Because we all know the fact that IGST credit, first we'll use it first for IGST, then for CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. We can use in any order or any manner. That fundamental point, you should get a clarity of thoughts. Getting clarity, friends? Come on, please take this example 2 also. Very interesting, very important. Please take it, come on. Please take the example 2, my dear friends. Come on, please take it. All of us, please take the example. Can I proceed? Have you finished writing your example 2, my dear friends? If you are done, I'll move forward to example 3, sir. Please do reply. Are we done or not? Brilliant. I think I can proceed now. Sure. So friends, if I proceed to example 3, with example 3, I will give you some more great concept, my dear friends. What is that? Kindly please listen. Sir, let's say input IGST 3 lakhs. Input CGST 1.5 lakhs. Input SGST also 1.5 lakhs. Clear, my dear friends? Just speak out. Next. Output IGST. My dear friends, please tell me, let's say I take figure as 2 lakhs. Then output CGST 2 lakhs. Then let's say output SGST also 2 lakhs only. Don't think same like last example. There's a difference here. Listen. Come on, concentrate now. Let me give full clarity on the concept of utilization of input tax credit. Come on, concentrate. Particulars, then IGST, CGST, SGST. Come on, my dear friends. Let's say when I take the figure of output tax, what is the figure of IGST, my dear friends? 2 lakh rupees. CGST figure, my dear friends, that is also 2 lakhs. SGST figure, sir, that is also 2 lakh rupees only. Now, when I start adjusting my input tax credit, what is the first thing I'll adjust, my dear friends? First thing I'll definitely adjust is IGST only. Come on, what the IGST credit I've got? 3 lakhs. First I'll set off 2 lakhs here. Now what is the balance left? Balance left is 1 lakh. Now how do we use this 1 lakh? I can use this 1 lakh for CGST, or I can use this 1 lakh for SGST, or I can divide that 1 lakh between CGST and SGST. Now my recommendation is always directly divide equally between both of them. 50,000, 50,000. If you divide like that, then what will happen is that CGST credit you can utilize entire 1,50,000. SGST credit also you can utilize entire 1,50,000. And by doing so, your net payable will be nil, nil, nil. But if you utilize in a different manner, then definitely, even though credit is there with you, still some amount payable will come. So it is also very important that you should have a clarity of thought on how you will set off your credit, because you have to set off in the most optimum possible manner, which will actually give you great benefits. So it is important that you will not set off just like that. You will set off in the most optimum possible manner, which will actually be beneficial for you. Because law only told IGST credit, first use it for output IGST, then use it for output CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. So when you can use it in any order or any manner, you can divide half, or you can do 60-40, or you can do 70-30, or use only for CGST, or use only for SGST. But keep in mind, IGST credit should be first utilized for output IGST, then for CGST or SGST, in any order or any manner. Getting clarity, friends? Something extraordinary and super duper amazing, my dear friends. And I strongly believe that you guys are getting some great amount of clarity of concept on this particular discussion, my dear friends. Something extraordinary and super duper important. Come on, take this example, come on. Please write down. I strongly believe that you are clear with the concept, my dear friends. Please do take the example very properly. Something super duper interesting and super wonderful. Because the example gives you great clarity of thought on the concept what I am trying to teach you. Especially the concept of manner of utilization of input tax credit. Please get great clarity of thought. Something super duper important and super duper important. And to repeat once again, my dear friends, input IGST credit to be first utilized for output IGST, then for CGST or SGST in any order or any manner. Then input CGST credit to be first utilized for output CGST, then for output IGST. Then input SGST to be first utilized for output SGST, then for output IGST. But we can't use CGST credit for SGST, and we can't use SGST credit for CGST. And second special point I clearly told you is that, what's second special point? Credit of CGST, SGST to be utilized only after IGST credit is fully exhausted. So don't use CGST, SGST credit unless IGST credit is fully exhausted. So first completely utilize your IGST credit, only then use your CGST, SGST credit. Are we getting clarity of thought, my dear friends? Speak out. Sir, I really want you guys to get a great clarity of thought on these wonderful examples what I am giving you, my dear friends. Something extraordinary and very, very important. Are we clear? Can I proceed? Chalo. Finally, my last example what I want to give you today itself is example number 4. Let's say input IGST is 1 lakh. Okay? Then input CGST is, let's say, 50,000. Then input SGST is, let's say, 50,000. And other side, we have only output IGST of 3 lakhs. That's it. We do not have output CGST and SGST, but we have only output what, my dear friends? IGST. So when I talk about utilization of credit, my dear friends, how do we set off, my dear friends? I'll take only two columns, particulars, and the column only for IGST. So when I calculate my output tax, my dear friends, what is my output IGST? The figure is nothing but 3 lakhs. And from that, when I reduce my input tax credit, what is my input tax credit? First, obviously, I'll use IGST credit, which is nothing but 1 lakh. Now, question is about, can I use CGST credit for output IGST? Yes. Next, can I use SGST credit for output IGST? Yes. Now, how should I use that? First, I will use CGST credit of 50,000. Then only I should use SGST credit of 50,000. Student can ask what difference it makes. It doesn't make a difference whether you write SGST first or CGST first. But as a matter of principle, where I clearly told special point, you can look at special point 3. Credit of SGST, I repeat one more time, credit of SGST can be utilized for output IGST only after credit of CGST, only after utilizing credit of CGST for output IGST. That point you need to keep in mind. That is the reason why what we are trying to do here is that first we'll use CGST credit, then only we'll use IGST credit. But of course, before using CGST or SGST, first thing we'll obviously use is IGST credit, because we can't touch CGST, SGST credit unless we completely utilize IGST credit. That's it. So by reducing all these things, what we'll get is net payable. And my net payable is nothing but 1 lakh rupees. That's all. I strongly believe that we have got great clarity of thought by looking at all these examples, my dear friends. Come on, speak out. So the purpose of this example is only to make sure that you guys have great clarity of thought on the concepts what we are trying to tell you. And I really want you to have some fantastic clarity of thought on all these concepts what we are trying to tell you, my dear friends. And it is very important that you have some tremendous clarity on utilization of input tax credit. And almost every time one question is coming in exam in relation to utilization of input tax credit, which I really want you guys to have some great clarity of thought. So are we clear, my dear friends? Come on, please do reply. That's it. Fantastic. And in fact, my dear friends, that's the end of story for this beautiful topic called Introduction to GST, wherein you need to understand what GST is all about, who have introduced GST, how GST has come into India, and also at the same time, you need to have a great clarity of thought on manner of utilization of input tax credits. Because without knowing that, you cannot move forward in GST. That's where I taught this concept today. Clear, my dear friends? So I'll stop here for today, and parents will take for the next discussion, and next class will come back with one more brilliant topic called, one fantastic chapter called supply. Something extremely important and super duper amazing chapter, my dear friends. And I really want you guys to go through all these points very clearly and become perfect, my dear friends. Something extremely important and super duper wonderful. Clear? Chal. Thank you so very much. Take care. See you all in next session and next class. Bye bye. Thank you.